Jamie, horror has been traditionally aimed at guys. I don't know if that's true. But lately there's been a shift to female horror movies such as The Descent and Hostel 2. You've done more than your share of horror. Do you think that women have finally embraced the genre as their own? Not my question. We can talk about other things if you'd like.
Wait.
Like, you know Jason Mewes.
What'd you say?
Do you know Jason Mewes? You did
Yeah, we did The Tripper together.
Did he try to fuck you?
He did?
He does that for even me. He does that for everybody.
Really?
You're not special, it's just you got 2 legs and a pulse. Mewes is all over you. Was that fun? He's a good guy.
Yeah, I love Jason. He's great. It was my first horror movie. It was a bit traumatizing. You know, I think that when you're an actor, as much as you try and detach from something, even when you're in it and it's corn syrup and it's red and it's disgusting, you kind of want to not feel like it's real, but some part of you kind of takes it as real, you know? That was shot and written by David Arquette, which was awesome because it wasn't like your typical horror movie. It was really tripped out, and it was like a weird political, satirical horror film. It wasn't like stuck into a genre, so we got to go there and just mess around, and I don't really understand the question, though.
Me neither. Let's go with instead, you worked with Frank Miller as a director.
Yeah.
What was that like? Twice, really, right?
Yeah, Frank is one of my closest friends, and we met.
Are you guys tight?
What?
Are you guys tight?
Oh, very close, yeah.
Can you get me his autograph?
Absolutely. I've got like 20 books filled with his autograph. It was funny on the Spirit. He always gives me like his books and his art, and it was really funny because when we did the Spirit, they sent a messenger over, and we opened up the door, and it was literally all the storyboards from the Spirit, and now they're like stacked up in our guest bedroom. You know, he's
eBay that shit.
Yeah, right. I know. Frank's awesome. You know, I mean, as a director, as a writer, as a friend, I really learned about comic books from him on the set of Sin City, and you know what was awesome about that is, you know, when I went to go in for Sin City, they just said that Robert wanted to meet me, Rodriguez, and they wouldn't tell me what it was for, and I walk in the room and here's this dude with the fedora on and Rodriguez, and they hand me a comic book and they say, read this, you know, out loud as my audition, and I read it with them, and then Robert showed me a scene of what it was going to look like, and you know, as soon as Frank and I met each other, we just really clicked, and he really made me understand more about how comics were drawn and why they were drawn a certain way, and I was just fascinated with him, and you know, it's really interesting because you see a man like him and what he's like on the surface. You know, I think some people are either intimidated or think that he's something that he's necessarily not, and he's actually a very gentle, caring, loving man, you know, and his creativity is so endless. It just blows my mind. You know, I feel like with something like Sin City and with the way that Frank writes, it's taking filmmaking and comic books to a whole other level. And for me as an actor to be able to be a part of anything that he does is, I think it's a blessing. You know, there's so few scripts that come along these days that really are trying to do something new and do something different, but are really true to the person. See, nobody fucks with Frank Miller, you know what I mean? So nobody's gonna step in and be like, you gotta do it this way, you know? And that's what I love about working with him, because when I'm on the set, I can feel free. I know that it's gonna be his vision according to what he wants, and it's not someone gonna try and meddle in what he's intending on doing, and there's something really liberating about that.
And were you familiar with The Spirit before that?
The first time I heard about The Spirit was actually through Frank. You know, he told me, I think before anybody knew about it, we were out to dinner one night and he said that he was writing, you know, the Spirit. And, you know, I'd known about Will Eisner through Frank, and I knew that he was a mentor and a peer of Frank's, and that they had a very close relationship. So I knew about Will Eisner through him. And then he was telling me that he was starting to write the scripts, you know, for his mentor based upon, you know, the comic books, and he was telling me about the characters and stuff like that, and how he wanted it to have a certain look or feel but really have no time. And that's when I went home after he told me about that, and I started doing a bit of research about The Spirit in those comics, and from my understanding, you know, they were really ahead of their time, you know, what he was doing.
And which character are you playing?
I play Lorelei.
Right on. So you got one of the posters. Which poster is yours?
Mine is Come to Me, Lover.
That's a pimp campaign.
It is. Nobody does campaigns. I mean, half the time as an actor, you're praying to God that they give out like one poster.
Right. One
poster, you know, because you work your ass up on these films and you want it to be really good, and not just because you want to be like famous or something, but because you put so much time and energy into it. And The Spirit doesn't even come out until Christmas Day, and they've already got this huge campaign, which is so great that there's finally people that are, you know, really putting an effort into advertising something, you know, that I feel very proud of.
So mental note, if I ever cast King, put it on the fucking poster, she's gonna bitch about it a lot. I worked real hard, I should be on it. I love, my favorite is the My City Screams. I think that is fucking dope.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great.
Pia, how fun is it to draw that fucking monkey ampersand?
It's my favorite part of the book.
Is it really?
Yeah, he's modeled after my cat, so they look just like, it looks just like him.
It's
so.
based on the cat?
Yeah, he's a bit Balinese, so he has a big ruff, and he's very acrobatic, and so when I'm stuck, I'm like, well, what would Charlie do? Ah, okay, there we go. Yeah, it's a fun book.
Now, were you hooked up with Vaughn prior to that? Did you know him prior to that?
No, he saw my
How does that
samples.
happen? How does somebody get a comic book artist?
Persistence. 10 years of working in independent books, trenches, sending in samples, trying to meet editors, and I met Heidi MacDonald that way, and she had my samples on the top of a pile, and Brian came into the office this one day when they were talking about getting started on this pitch, and he saw my stuff at the top of the pile and said, "Get that guy," and that's how it happened.
Now, you draw a book that's predominantly all chicks.
Yeah.
One dude, a monkey, and a nation of chicks.
Pretty much. That was when Heidi called me about the project. Her first was, okay, like, how do you feel about doing a book with an all-female cast? I'm like, oh, what is this? She's like, don't worry, it's good, it's good, good. I'll send you the thing. You read it, just read it.
Like it's Josie and the Pussycat. Like, fuck this. I want to draw chimps.
Yeah. And I read it, and it was great. It just reminded me of Buffy. It had that same vibe. There was like humor and adventure and gut wrench and surprise and gore. And yeah, I wanted it, and it was great.
And how collaborative did the relationship get?
Surprisingly. Brian is incredibly open to suggestions. I just tossed in an idea one night because I was about to fall asleep, and I'm like, he needs a nemesis. He needs someone that's like, you know, opposite of him. He's an escape artist. We need a bondage expert. How would that work? So I kind of formed in my head and how this could be a cathartic event, and I jumped out of bed, fired off an email, and then 3 months later he comes back and says, oh, I came up with a storyline for your idea. It's called Safe Word. And that's how it all came in.
And you came up with that idea while you were falling asleep.
Yes. I have no shame.
Sure you did.